Hey everyone, it's Lawrence Mack here, real estate broker out of Mississauga and Toronto, and founder of Real Estate Rookies. And today we're going to talk about succeeding in your first year of real estate. So the general format is going to be, I'm going to go through a few of my slides to talk about the first year, good things and bad things, and then at the end, ask me any questions anytime. So let's start. The first question, why do agents get into real estate? So 3 reasons why. First one, it's always you can make a lot of money. That one seems to be pretty popular, and it's true. Second one, people's ideas of why you want to get into real estate is that you can make your own hours. Also true. And the third reason is I love people and looking at houses. Those are pretty much the 3 most top reasons why everyone I've talked to always wants to become a realtor. So that'll give you an idea about that. Next, the good news. The good news is real estate can be life-changing. I can tell you that from personal experience and from people that I have, good friends in real estate that have done very, very well. It can be life-changing. It's like a different tier of how your life and your lifestyle and your family can go, because it's a different lifestyle and financially it is very rewarding. The second good news, you can choose your own way of doing business. Which means if you want to cold call, you want to door knock, you want to do open houses, you want to do anything you like, you can do business that way. I know people that do business by just having coffees and, doing networking parties. You have people who just do strictly online leads. There's many, many ways of choosing how to do your business. And that's like the most exciting part about real estate. The sky's your limit, and it is your own business to choose how you want to do business. So no one's really dictating what you can do, and also how much you can earn. So you can just keep working and you can choose your own way of doing business. And lastly, it could be exciting. There are, even after 5 years, whenever I'm doing a deal or negotiating, it gets some of the adrenaline going. It gets pretty exciting. And then other things such as planning your marketing plans, your marketing campaigns, or doing direct sales, all those are actually very exciting and new and different. It's a lot more interesting than perhaps having a 9-to-5 job and doing the same thing day in, day out. Every day is different, as many of you will attest to if you've been in this industry for a while. The bad news. Okay, here's the bad news. 80% of realtors do not renew after 2 years. This is according to Toronto Real Estate Board. So basically the number of people who register, I believe 20%, or in terms of numbers, that's how many people who don't renew. And typically speaking, it's a 2-year mark, and that's because of your RICO fees and because of your insurance fees and all the other fees like that. After the 2-year mark, if a realtor doesn't do very well, typically at that point, they decide, you know what, I think I'm done paying those fees. I don't think I can make a go at this industry. I think I'm going to stop. That is the reality of it. Those are the statistics in Toronto. In NAR, 87% of realtors fail in the first 5 years. I believe that's a statistic. Tom Ferry says that a lot. I believe that's a statistic from NAR, the National Association of Realtors. And the longevity of it, again, first 2 years, a whole bunch of people fail. And then after 5 years, a whole bunch more of those people end up failing as well. So that is true. These statistics are not much different than, say, a small business owner. A small business owner, like starting up a restaurant, maybe 1 in 10 will succeed. Maybe 2 or 3 are called walking wounded, which means that they are surviving, not doing amazing, but not failing. And then maybe 7 out of 10 of them will fail after like 2 years or 5 years. So that is the statistics. So it's very similar to a small business type of owner. And lastly, there's a lot of ups and downs. Again, if you've been in this industry for a while, you can attest to the ups and downs. The highs are high, the lows are low. When you get 2 or 3 deals or something within a week, you're like on top of the world, everything is amazing. And then all of a sudden 2 or 3 months without any deals or any traction, and then maybe you have one potential deal, it's like a friend, and then the friend kind of backstabs you and you don't get that deal, and then you're really, really low again. But then you get another listing and all of a sudden you're happy again. So it's very, very trendy in terms of the emotion. It does go up and down quite a bit. So the best way is to have a support system, whether it's like your spouse or your family or friends, or maybe other colleagues that sort of understand your pain Maybe you're in some news groups that can help be supportive in that way. Like, for example, Real Estate Rookies, in my opinion, try to be very supportive. But if you can find your group or your tribe of people that can help you with your ups and downs, that is very, very helpful, because it's difficult to do this by yourself. I can tell you that personally. No person is an island. It's difficult. You need a good support system to deal with the lots of ups and downs. So that's the bad news. So the question is, why do so many agents fail? So the first reason why so many agents fail is because of no discipline. It's the opposite of make your own hours. As I went through before, the top two reasons why people want to be realtors typically is they want to make a lot of money and they want to make their own hours. Unfortunately, those are two diametrically opposed ideas. You cannot make a whole bunch of money and also make your own hours, because that's not really how it works, at least initially. If eventually you set up your systems that way, that's great. But initially, it's very difficult to do. So the idea of no discipline is one of the problems. If you want to watch, because there's no boss looking over you. So if you want to stay at home and watch Netflix and binge watch something, no one's going to stop you. It's okay. So you do that on Monday, you do that on Tuesday, you do that on Wednesday. Eventually you do that every day. You're not getting any new business coming in. And so those type of agents might fail. And also here, don't confuse productivity with work. So some people do a lot of busy work, whether it's fussing with your business cards or website, or just, getting ready to get ready. As Zig Ziglar says, you can't just keep priming the pump. You have to actually pump at some point. So you can't just get ready to get ready. It's like, you just have to go do it, whether it's cold calling or door knocking or just talking with your friends or letting people know you're out there. You have to go and do it. I cannot stress that enough. Real estate is a very simple business. It is taking whatever you need to do, breaking it down into small chunks, whatever the chunk is, and then actually doing it, actually executing it. So if you're making your website, you got to write out your scripts. Okay, I got to do 10 pages on my website. So each of those pages, I have to write out what the wording is going to be. And then so I spend Monday doing the first one, I do Tuesday doing the second one, and then I upload it, I edit it. There's a very, very small, distinct steps that you have to do in order to push yourself forward. And so again, the idea of no discipline is one of the main reasons why many agents fail. Second reason would be no guidance. You could just be, running around just picking stuff up. It's in the past, it was a lot more difficult, but honestly speaking, you don't really even need to pay a coach or a sales coach or anything. There's so much really, really, really good information out there that's all free that you can just go read or listen to, that can help you in terms of guidance. I mean, obviously it helps if you have a one-on-one mentor, or you've got like a broker manager that can help you, or a broker of record that can tell you what you should do, or some friends. All that guidance helps, but you don't have to pay money for it. When I started out in real estate, I started to just listen to YouTubes and podcasts. I always have a podcast in my car. So whenever I'm by myself, it's always running, continuously having real estate realtor interviews and that kind of stuff. And that's all I listen to when I'm by myself. Like, I don't really listen to the news. I try not to. I try to listen to music when I'm by myself in the car. The car, in my opinion, is an excellent university, because you're driving around anyway. You might as well learn something, even if it sort of seeps in, even if you're just talking about scripts or the way to say things. All of those are very excellent to listen to in the car, because learning whatever's happening on the news locally or just the newest song does not help you push your career forward. And so that's just downtime that I personally like. But the idea is, there are so many coaches and so many YouTube videos out there that it's just quite amazing. I mean, some of them lead towards other, coaching programs or boot camps or wherever they are. That's fine. But just do it because it's free. So no guidance is the second problem. And the third problem, which is probably the main reason why they fail, is agents do not treat the business like a business. For your information, looking for business is the business. It is unfortunate for the people who are in it for, I love people, I love people, and I love looking at nice houses. Okay, that's great. But, just showing houses and writing contracts does not make you successful. Of course, some might argue with me, but I'm telling you, it won't make you successful. Again, I'm talking about 99% of the opportunities. Obviously, there's 1% that's like, oh, look at me, I just post some stuff on TikTok and I get a bunch of business. I'm like, that's great for you, whatever. I can't help you with that. All I can do is a systematic way that I normally teach how to get business. And so you need the idea that looking for the business is the business and not just showing houses and not just listing a house and staging it, that kind of stuff. So whether you're looking for business because of the people you know right now, because of your sphere, whether it's your existing clients where you help them buy a house or you help them sell a house and from there you ask them for referrals, all those are different ways of looking for business. If you do not like sales, you probably won't be successful in this business. It's difficult to do this if you feel the only thing to do is just by like helping writing contracts. Now, there are some exceptions to this. If you want to join a team, I think that would help too. So there are a lot of people who want to join teams, which in my opinion is more like a highly paid customer service role. And that's okay. I mean, obviously there are different teams, but a lot of the teams where they have their whole system dialed in, they already have the leads coming in. The customers are already there. So they just give it to you and you have to process. Whether you got, okay, you got to do open houses Saturday and Sunday. I need you to door knock these places. I need you to call up on the people. It's like a high paid job. And that's fine. I know people who are also in a high paid job in real estate on teams that make many, many multiples of 6 digits, and they're quite happy in what they are. They don't really like the sales, like trying to get business part of it, but they like the processing part of it. And that's okay too. Maybe you want to be buyer agents. I have no judgments here, whatever you like to do, but I'm just saying in terms of mindset, the reason why a lot of agents fail is they do not treat it like a business. Also treating it like a business is if you, for example, going back to the Netflix suggestion, if all you did all day was, if you had a business and you paid an employee and all they did all day was to sit there and watch Netflix, you would probably fire them. So same thing, you should fire yourself if that's what you do. However, if you are your own employee and your employee decides to cold call every day, door knock every day, talk to clients every day, whatever it is, that's the type of good employee that you can see that that employee would eventually make you money for that business. So it's separating that, which is difficult for a lot of people, especially when they come as a second career. Real estate is always usually a second plus career. Like many realtors, I would say the majority have a career first and then they go into real estate, and that's fine. But when you have a job first and then you go into real estate, the problem is the job is a 9-to-5 job, maybe some homework or work afterwards, and then you get paid regardless of what you do. Here is more like you eat what you kill. Like you have to look for business. And so the mentality of, I'll just work on my website, I'll just do my business cards, I'll just, go on Facebook and just post about whatever, and think that that's getting you business is very, very difficult, because it's probably not going to get you business, because you're not treating it like a business to go get business. So that would be, I would say, the 3 main reasons why many agents fail. And so the question, what does a rookie athlete need? And so I use this as an analogy often, because whenever I'm talking to new rookies, they may not be able to think about what it means. Like, it's easier to disassociate yourself from the question. And the question here is, let's just say you had Tiger Woods or something and he's 9 years old. What does he need to survive to make it to world class? That's the question. So I would say training and practice, definitely important. He's got to be hitting golf balls all day. He's got to learn the proper way of doing things. Like he's got to do a lot of training and practice. In real estate, this would mean practicing scripts, learning about your market, that kind of stuff. Things that will help you improve yourself for what you need to do better in real estate. So in this case, again, we're talking about Tiger Woods. Second thing I would recommend is he would probably need a good coach. Just because he does training and practice is not going to get him to world class. At a certain point, he will need some type of mentorship or guidance. And, in his case, maybe his father, whatever it is. But if you're in real estate, I mean, you could just be doing the same thing over and over again, but you don't know if it's going in the right direction because you want somebody who's already been there that can sort of point you in the right direction. Now, similarly here, you don't have to pay a coach. You don't need to have a manager or a mentor to point you in that direction. There are so many free coaches online, YouTube, podcasts, whatever it is, that can guide you, because by learning what they're saying, for example, if they just keep telling you cold call all day and you like that philosophy and you just follow what they do, it is like a coach, because you're sort of following their methodology. You're following their formula. So you don't have to pay a coach, but also if you paid a coach one-on-one, that could probably also help as well. So that would be the second thing I would recommend to like a Tiger Woods or something who wants to become world class. And the third one is just have the right equipment, which is a minor thing but it's something you have to think about. Obviously, Tiger Woods or any type of world-class athlete can't succeed at the level that they need to without the right equipment. And by that, in real estate is very, very simple. At the basic level, a good car, a good laptop, a good phone, basic level. Make sure your car works, it is reliable, presentable, doesn't have to be like an amazing BMW or something like expensive, but it just needs to be a reliable car. You need a reliable phone with a good provider. Don't have one that just keeps cutting out. And if it does, switch providers, because the phone is also a very, very important part. And also don't have a really, really old phone. It doesn't have to be the newest phone. It doesn't need to be the most expensive phone, but it needs to be a phone that is reliable so that you can go do deals, text clients, that kind of stuff. If it keeps dropping calls, it's very unprofessional. And the third thing, the right equipment would be a good laptop, a good computer, right? So good car, good phone, good computer. Good computer, similarly, make sure you have the right software, make sure it's not buggy, make sure it's fast enough. When you need to do an offer at the 11th hour and you do not have a good PDF editor, you do not have a good DocuSign type of a digital signing type of platform, you do not have any of that stuff, you can't easily get an MLS because you can't search up your information, you don't have a good like editor, that kind of stuff. All of those things are the right equipment for you to do business. Reliable internet connection, that can be another good one, I would say. All of these are very, very important because these three, the car, the phone, and your computer, is what you need to do business on a day-to-day basis so that you're not embarrassing yourself when, hey, I couldn't do that, my car broke down again, and you couldn't reach me because I had bad cell service, and then we had to do an offer, but my computer died because there's a lot of viruses. Like, okay, thanks. It doesn't sound like a very successful realtor I want to entrust my $1 million home with. So similarly, other equipment, so the basic one, again, car, phone, computer, and then you have other equipment that would help as well, which would be things like if you have like a good website for lead generation, that kind of stuff, that would help, a good CRM. Like these are sort of secondary. It's not really going to affect your business today, but it will affect it tomorrow. And so those are more like online type of applications. So make sure you got a good website. It doesn't have to be super amazing, but a website and your CRM, especially, I think is very, very important for your right equipment. So right equipment, technology, that kind of stuff. Okay, let's talk about 3 things to do in your first year, and then we'll have a mastermind time and ask me anything. So 3 things to do in your first year. So let's see here. First thing is build a CRM. That would be the most important thing in my opinion. Build a CRM. So CRM, if you don't know, is a customer relationship management database. What that means is information about your clients, whether it's their name, their birth date, the spouse, the name of the dog, the address that they're at, how many times you've done deals with them, how many notes you have, like what school they went to, what their hobbies are. All these things are good for a CRM. And so you need to build CRM because that's the information that you'll need to build a long-term career, because repeat and referral is probably the easiest type of business. It's the most profitable because really they just call you up and then you just move on from there. So building CRM is important. And then the question is always what CRM to use and that kind of stuff. That could be an entirely different talk. But in terms of CRMs, I personally have 4 of them right now. Maybe I can cut down to 3. But each of the CRMs do something that are different than other ones. They all have different purposes, whether it's for a mailer or for the physical mailing or for the email mailing. They're all different. But even when I started, or when you should start, something like an Excel sheet or Google sheet is perfectly fine. The important part is just keeping down the information. There's so many interviews when you talk to high producing realtors when they're just like, man, I wish I kept track of all my clients in the first 5 years because I don't know who they are. I don't remember who they are. I don't know how to get a hold of them. And that's like a shame. But then eventually they get on the CRM bandwagon and then they start to realize what it is that they need to keep track of stuff. So that'll be the first one, build a CRM. Second one is set a foundation for the future. So my personal philosophy about real estate is that I'm going to be in here for the next 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever years. That's the goal. So if that's the goal, whatever happens in my first year doesn't matter. Now, if I want to dabble in this part-time and the idea is just do a couple of deals and then maybe bail after 2 years, that's fine, doesn't matter. But if you want to last for a long time, it is a marathon. It's about setting the foundation in the first few years so that in the later years, everything makes sense. So hypothetically, in the first year, if you learn how to do some like objection handling about, say, commission, and you learn that in your first year, You can learn it all the way down. You can use it for the next 50 years, right? It's just something that you learn because you're building the foundation. But if you decide you don't want to learn that yet until year number 20, it's up to you. And then by year number 20, you can use the rest of that information for the rest of your years. So then mentally for me, at least philosophically, I'm always like, why don't you build all the foundation, everything as soon as possible, and then move it along? Similarly, if you want to have a coach or a mentor, why don't you do that at the beginning instead of waiting 5 years and then doing it? I don't know. That is a personal decision of whatever you like to do, but you want to build that foundation for the future. And that sort of builds on the first point, which is start building the CRM so that the CRM can start working towards the future. Similarly, when I deal with other agents, my goal is to deal with that agent for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So to screw up with them so that I can make an extra $1,000, $2,000 or whatever it is in commission, I don't really care, because the money that I can make from that agent over the next 20, 30, 40 years is priceless compared with the small transaction I'm dealing with now. You know, I mean, maybe someone wants to, you know, so you get a referral from some out-of-town agent and they want, like, say 25%, and then you're like, oh, I did more work than normal. I'm only going to give you 20% because of whatever. And it's like, okay, you made an extra $1,000 or $2,000 this week, but over the next 40 years, the person won't give you any referrals. You know, they're going to badmouth you towards all their other friends in that city. You're not going to get those referrals. And maybe they badmouth you online. You don't get any of those referrals. Like, none of that makes any sense. So for me, like, I don't care about that. It's all about the long term. Of course, I'm young. So, you know, maybe if you're in retirement age or 70, 80, something like that, and you really want to, you don't plan on being here for the next 40 years in real estate, then maybe it doesn't really matter. And for me, a lot of it's setting the foundation. So setting the foundation for your CRM, setting the foundation for relationships with other agents, and setting the foundation for your pillars, which is number 3. Establish your pillars. So some of the people, some of the coaches recommend 3 pillars out of 6 or something like that. So what is a pillar? A pillar is a method of lead generation so that you can hopefully consistently do the same thing. So for instance, if one of your pillars is your sphere, then you concentrate on your sphere, whether you do pop-by gifts, whether you do events, whether you send them gifts at Christmas or you know, things on Valentine's or whatever you do. That's one pillar of business. So we'll call it, you know, your sphere. Maybe a second pillar of business is going to be, for example, your farm, geographic farm. If you're here last week when we talked about launch your farm, we talked about how to establish a geographic farm. And maybe that's one of the pillars of business. And maybe another pillar is just cold calling. You just pick another neighborhood, you cold call a lot. Maybe that's your type of business. Maybe your business is, I want to, you know, do a first buyer seminar at the bank or something like that once a month. And that's your pillar business. Whatever your pillar business that you have to start to establish it. And it's hard to do it on the first year. I know some people that have, but I'm always of the mindset is like, you can't do 100 things at once. And a lot of the coaches or your managers and that kind of stuff are going to guilt you into doing a million things at once. And it'll be hard. You have to put the blinders on and do one thing at a time. It's called the one thing. Like, it's hard not to pay attention to everybody else. Because when everyone says, look, Facebook is dying, you gotta push on Facebook because blah, 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 and there's all these people on Facebook. And then people are like, no, you can't do that. You gotta do Instagram. Instagram is the thing because Facebook's gonna die and Instagram is all about the images. And they're like, no, that's stupid. You know, millennials are only for TikTok. That's the future. Instagram is garbage. You can't do that. And like, no, this is all garbage. You gotta do YouTube. And you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And then after a while, you're like, what the heck? I can't do all of this stuff. And the answer is you cannot. You need to focus. You cannot do everything. But the idea is start to pick up some parts and just start to build on those foundations. So if the foundation is start with, and that's always my first recommendation, is always start with your sphere, all the people who know, like, and trust you. Those are where you're going to get the majority of the business. In my first year, I did not do a lot of business. I'll be candid. I did $19,000 in my whole first year. My first 2 deals were my cousin and my cousin-in-law in the first week. I'm like, yes, this is awesome. After that, nothing for the whole year, like one small referral or something like that. Like, it was almost nothing. And don't get me wrong, I worked hard, you know, like 50 open houses, I door knocked, I cold called, I did everything, tons of open houses, like 50 open houses or something. Like, I did a lot of things, but I didn't get much business in my first year. But the point is, with the sphere, within the first week, I had 2 of my relatives who said, oh yeah, I need to buy, why don't I just use you? And that's because they knew, like, and trusted me. And that's where you get the easiest amount of business, which is the people who know, like, and trust you. And that's the type of business I like to concentrate on, whether through my emails or that kind of stuff. So I like to concentrate on that type of business. But you may not want to. You might want to do other type of business, such as cold calling around an area. You could do that too. You could door knock around an area. You can hold networking events. You could just have coffees with friends every time. You can start email newsletters, whatever you want to do. You can do physical mailers. There are a lot of types of businesses that you can do. And so you have to decide what you want to do and then start to work towards that thing. The best way is to some type of niche. I mean, it could just be some type of niche for, like, I only work with divorcees. I only work for people who are downsizing because, you know, I'm a senior and I understand your pains and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different ways of establishing what you want to do, but eventually you want to establish what your pillars are going to be. Obviously, you're like, hey, I'll take anything I can get. I understand it, but you just want to plan for that in terms of strategy. Similarly, the idea of being a listing agent versus a buying agent, I've talked about that many times. Listing agents being much better. 50% of my deals are listing, 50% are buying, and that was pretty much starting from the get-go in my first year kind of thing. It's just how I naturally think, and that's what I target for, and then I guess it manifests itself. So I definitely suggest listing versus buying, but you still want to go down that path. I mean, I know you're saying, like, Lawrence, yeah, I understand. Listing is better than buying. I can only deal with renters right now. It's like saying you should only deal with $3 million homes and not $1 million homes. You're like, yeah, great. I would love to have $3 million homes, but I don't have any right now. And, like, I understand. So if the idea is, if you want $3 million homes, maybe you start door knocking in that area. Maybe you start looking at the stats in that area. Maybe you start doing open houses in that area. Eventually you can get that business if that's what you want to target. And the last thing there in terms of what you want to do in the first year to establish your pillar is you don't know what you don't know. I honestly did not know what I didn't know in the first year. And so when my manager told me to do stuff, I just went to did it. I didn't know if cold calling was going to be profitable or if I would enjoy it. And these are very important things. Like, why are you so smart that you think that these things are not going to work? Out of curiosity. Now, you have people who do this for 50 years, they make millions of dollars, and you, the new person who comes into real estate, is like, you know what? Cold calling is not going to work. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. And you're like, okay, I'm great that I'm happy that you think that, but there's a whole bunch of people that think you're wrong and have a lot more experience. So I'm not saying that they don't work, because I know a lot of agents in every single pillar that make money, but you do have to match it, because there's two things, which is one, we'll take cold calling because that's like the classic example. The question is, can you make money at this and do you enjoy it? I mean, those are really the two things. And for some people, the fact that they make money at that makes them enjoy it, and that's fine. But if you truly don't make money at it and don't enjoy it, you probably shouldn't do it. And if you make money at it and don't really enjoy it, I mean, that's up to you. Some people don't mind it. They see it as looking for business is my business. So my 3 hours of cold calling in the morning is what I have to do for my job. After that, I could do whatever I want. You know, suck it up, buttercup. That's what I do. So that's the mentality that some people have. But other people are like, yeah, I don't like door knocking. Okay, so when I started, I did do all of those things. I don't like cold calling, although I did get business from it. That's just myself. Most of my business is from my sphere. These are people who have known me for more than a year, and they know, like, and trust me. That's basically the type of business that I like to go after. But it's up to you, because I know people that do not like calling their sphere, and they don't like talking to their sphere. They don't like talking to people they know. They're actually perfectly happy with talking to complete strangers, getting hung up on them by them. And if not, they're just going to the next person. That's fine. But then calling their own sphere, they're like, they feel kind of weird. And that's okay too. Like, you have to understand where you're at. But the last thing to understand is that I understand that you feel cold calling is kind of, I don't know. And door knocking, yeah, I don't know. And like online leads, yeah, kind of expensive, I don't know. Open houses, I never really like doing that. Takes up my weekend, I don't know. The main point is you have to do something, man. Like, you got to do something. You can't do nothing. So I understand, okay, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like that. Okay, that's fine. Pick your poison, pick whatever you like to do, that's great. But eventually you have to pick something, because looking for business is part of the business. If you really don't like sales that much, you really don't like talking to people or picking up the phone or emailing them or looking at stats or, you know, talking about your successes, if you don't like any of this kind of stuff, maybe real estate isn't for you. And I'm not saying that facetiously. I'm saying that honestly. life is short. Don't just go into real estate because you think you'll make a lot of money, but then you really, really hate it because half your friends are backstabbing you and you just can't take the ups and downs. And you don't like talking to people and you don't like going into houses and you don't like doing any of this stuff. And the contract just makes your eyes cross and there's way too many regulations and you're afraid of getting sued. Like, if all of these are the case, maybe real estate's not for you. But if it is for you, I think real estate is a really, really rewarding type of industry. It's been amazing for myself and my family. I find it very, very fun. I really like the camaraderie that I have with a lot of realtor friends that I've made. So quick story about myself. Since out of high school, I've only had companies. I've never actually had a job. So I never had that camaraderie of having coworkers or anyone to talk with. Most of the time I'm just like the boss and I just hire people. So the idea that I can start meeting up with peers and talking about ideas, I personally, from a personal level, find very, very fulfilling. And so that's what I like doing, and giving back and that kind of stuff. But that's just what I do. So that in the nutshell is what I have to say about succeeding in your first year. I'll open the floor now to any questions. If anyone just wants to, unmute yourself and just talk or turn your video, always happy to answer anything. But hopefully that's been educational experience of my idea about what you should do in your first year and how to succeed going to the future. So any questions?
I have a question for you.